good morning, good afternoon, good evening or good night, depending on where you are in the world. Welcome today to RaceDepartment. My name's Paul, I'll be your host for the next 30 or 40 minutes or so, and today we're taking out some Puma cars in Automobilista Racing Simulator by Riser Studios. Already I've done a quick video on one of the very impressive new Puma models that have come to the sim as a bit of a surprise add-on DLC, and today we're taking the other three cars out for a spin and giving our impressions on what they feel like in AMS. The first class we're going to look at is this Brazilian Touring Car Classics. Now, there are two cars in this class, so in Class B we've got the Puma Gte. A very European looking sports car. It's a 1.7 litre rear wheel drive. It's got 112 horsepower according to the specs and a mass of 685 kilograms. So it's small, it's light, it's reasonably underpowered, but it's a little bit nippy, it's a little bit exciting. Following that, we're going to move over to the FL class, where the other Puma in the historic collections can be found, and that's the Puma Gt B. This is a big American muscle looking type car, and it comes with a 4.1 litre engine. It goes 182 horses and it's a bit heavier at just under 1,000 kilograms at 990 kg. So we're going to go for the slower of the two cars first, the Class B. We're going to pick the very fetching bright yellow paint scheme, and we're going to race in Taruma. We're going to do a quick 10-minute race, or 8-minute race to be precise, against the AI in the category B, and give our impressions of this car before flitting over to the bigger version. Okay, let's go trackside. Okie dokie diddly pokey, we're back on track. So let's go racing in this here Puma Gte. We'll skip the formation lap because nobody wants to watch a formation lap. And let's have a look what this little sports car's got to offer. As you can see, we're in Touring Car Classics DLC, so that's a lovely collection of old school Brazilian touring car style race cars. Very nice mix of different, unusual and pretty darn exciting, to be honest, race cars in this class. So I do particularly like Touring Classics DLC, and this Group B in which we're racing now is the slowest category within that class. So theoretically these will be the easier to drive cars and hopefully should produce a nice racing experience for us to enjoy. Now, I like these cars, I like this sort of speed. It might not look the most exciting race in the world on the screen, but in terms of actually being able to get side by side with people, have little slippy sliding moments like we had there, be in the wrong gear, so we're losing out big time on acceleration. These cars are absolutely perfect. I've picked Taruma because it's a relatively large racetrack. There's one or two different lines in a car like this that you can take into the corners, so that should give us plenty of opportunity to put the odd pass or two on our rivals on track. We're currently P18, soon to be P17. Only got 4 gears, so don't try and go up the box pole because that's going to lead to nothing. A bit hot into T1, but because we're not going too fast and we've got a nice, pliant, sliding little race car underneath us, we can catch that slide, have a little bit of sideways fun. Pretty bumpy track in this car, so the steering wheel's really wrestling in my hands as I try and negotiate my way through this field of priceless / worthless classic cars. Got a little bit overexcited there and just caught his rear quarter, but everybody lives to fight another day. All is fair in love and touring car racing. But he's brake tested me a little bit as well, so you've got to keep your wits about you. Even at these speeds, there's still the door-to-door action. It's fantastic. Remember to change down the gear this time. Get it to the apex, get a good run. Up the gears. Happy days, peeps. Happy days. So, back to the DLC methinks. This car that we're driving now is the Puma Gte. It's one of 4 cars that came as part of the very recent and rather surprise addition of the Puma brand to Automobilista. In that pack came 2 historics, which we've seen previews of at the beginning of this video, the Gte that I'm driving now and the much larger, much more powerful Gt B of the FL class. It also comes with a car that I've previously done a token drive video on, which is the P052, I think it is, which is a modern race car that's been brought to the motor racing fold over in Brazil by Puma. Very much like, I think I described it at the time as Mazda MX-5-esque in its behaviour and its size and its speed. It's a small little sports car, open topped, roll cage on it as you would expect, because it's got to be compliant to the modern safety standards. And it feels like what would be, much like the MX-5, a really excellent clubman level, entry level race car. So again, not endowed with all the horsepower in the whole wide world, but it's got some nice road holding. It's a good, thorough little racing car, no tech on it, that can really help produce awesome racing and give young drivers or amateur drivers that confidence to be inspired enough to go out there and put on a good show, ply their trade, learn their craft in the world of motorsports. So that's a great car. And we've also got something a little bit new for AMS. We've got the new Puma road car as well. I've changed down gear and didn't need to. We've got the new Puma road car as well, which I've not driven yet. Road cars aren't at all my cup of tea in racing sims, but I'm really interested to see how that feels in AMS, because let's be honest with ourselves here, the physics in Automobilista are pretty damn spectacular, and the FFB force feedback is also really, really good. So I'm interested to see how that transfers to a sports road car on what I would assume will be road tyres as well. So that'll be really interesting to see how that differs from a race machine that's more our usual fare in this sim. But that's to come later in the video. That'll be the last car we take out today, so hold your horses for that one, or skip through if you're not watching live, and have a look at what we think of that a little bit later on. But for now, we're in this one. We're in the Gte, not a particularly inspired racing name, and we're about to pass this young gentleman here into T1, light amount of braking, very bumpy, mid-corner, get a bit of curb which makes it more bumpy. We've got past him, we've cleared him no problem. Remember not to change down gear here, just a little feather of the throttle, correct the rear end as it wants to step out, run all the way to the outside, catch the exit curb, keep it reasonably tight for the right-hander, again running a little bit wide as the car pushes. Down 1 gear to ensure we've got a decent run, because in cars of this level of horsepower it's all about keeping momentum up, getting a good run out of the corner. So if you're if you're a little bit down on acceleration, then it's going to cost you all the way down this reasonably long straight into this challenging little turn here. The back end wants to step out, but back on the gas again nice and early, shift up a little bit early just to soften the rear and just to keep it under control, and away we go into the sweeping final corner, which must be barriers just on the outside there, must be pant-wettingly exciting in real life. I say something about Brazilian racetracks, they know how to keep good quality old school racing locations. None of this stupid massive AstroTurf and thousands of miles of runoff can be found on these tracks. These are proper old school race circuits that reward a driver for doing it right and break their bones for doing it wrong, which is wicked, which is the kind of thing I like. Oh, back end just wanting to step out on us there. They're old cars, it's old technology, they're old tyres, you've got 900-degree steering lock. They want to play, they want to go out and have some fun, they beg to be pushed just a little bit over the limit and get them drifting. I don't particularly want to do that because the next guy is 21 seconds up the road. So if I pass this chap here, it's going to make for a very boring last couple of laps on this video. So I'm going to follow him a little bit and see where our car has advantage over his on this racetrack. Again, he wants to step out, but it's gentle enough that you can do something about it. It's not going to catch you out doing weird and wonderful things as this car. And some of that is thanks to the fact that we've not got a lot of horsepower, so we're not doing ridiculous speeds in the corners and on the straights. Some of it's down to the fact that most of the grip in this car is to the tyres and the mechanical grip. It's not laden with aerodynamic spoiling stuff, and some of it's down on the fact that the physics are just that good in Automobilista that the car, the physics and the force feedback. I'm using the sim steering V2 Leo Bodner direct drive wheel for this video, and I feel everything that this car, absolutely, literally everything that this car's trying to do. I can feel the bumps of the road, I can feel the tyres on tarmac, I can feel literally everything that's cracking off when trying to drive this race car through my hands, and that makes it a massively pleasurable. I'm going to have you now, so it's pretty much the last lap. This makes it a massively pleasurable, massively engaging and enjoyable driving experience, driving these wicked little cars in AMS round this beautiful Brazilian racetrack. Loving it, absolutely loving it, peeps. This is a great car. And of course, with AMS you can do multi-class racing if you want, so you can put the FL class, which is the bigger and much faster category of historic touring cars, you can put that in with these slower ones as well and have yourself an historic multi-class race. Although judging by the fact I'm 27 seconds shy of the driver in P8, having only done 6 laps, this is pretty much a multi-class race anyway by the looks of it. Those little Fiat Pandas, or whatever they're called over here, really don't have the pace of the front third of the pack, and that's cost us now in this race, so we're not going to be able to catch back up again. But needless to say, this is obviously historic racing, as I've said, and as such, things like balanced performance, BOP, they didn't exist. All for the better, in my opinion, back in those days. You run what you bring, governed usually by such things as engine displacement or something along those lines, usually, depending on what series it is that you're talking about. So you do get things like some runaway cars in the races, and you are, depending on what you pick, depends on the sort of performance you can expect to achieve. So that's all very believable, but these cars are balanced nicely as you would expect them to be. They're an outstanding addition. This GTE that we're driving now is an excellent addition to the already somewhat fabulous touring car, Brazilian touring car classics pack in Automobilista, and really welcomed. I like old cars, I make no bones about the fact that historic content pleases me a great deal. So one of my favourite sims is Automobilista, and to see old school cars in AMS, studio built should I say, sorry, Puma designed it, Paul, not Riser, studio built with all the quality of the model and the physics and everything else that comes with it. It's a very happy time for me. And Riser and Renato and Niels and everybody else involved at Riser Studios have absolutely done us proud once again with this wonderful car. It's my kind of historic car as well. I like the low-powered European-esque historic cars, so ones that have got a little bit of style like this things have. Get a bit of marbles. Hey, we've spun off on the slowdown lap. We are David Coulthard. It's okay, the might's on its slowdown lap. No one cares about that. Yep, these are my kind of car. Really like things like this that have got good handling, that you can throw about, that you can get sliding, and that you can produce good quality racing against the either AI, or if you're taking it online, against the online drivers as well. It's an epic motor, this one I'm really impressed with. My favourite, to be honest, out of the new 4-pack Puma DLC. So yeah, really satisfied with this one. A beautiful car, and I hope the little race that we've done round the track gives you some kind of idea of just how much fun it is. I wasn't really pushing it flat jacks, we were working in traffic, but like all historic cars, it's something that rewards you. The better you get at driving it, the more experience you gain in the car. You can get the thing sideways. You can use the drift to your advantage for your lap time. So beautiful drive, as all historic content is. And that is the Puma Gte. So time to go a bit bigger. Time to get in the Gt B. Let's see if that is just as much fun or more. Okay, welcome back. We're now in the Puma Gt B, a considerably larger, more powerful, heavier and altogether more aggressive race car than the Gte that we've just taken out. We're still at Taruma, and we're still in the Automobilista Brazilian Touring Car Classics pack, but this time we've moved up a category. So whereas before in the Gte we were driving what's known as Class B, we've now moved up to the appropriate class for this car, which is FL, and that contains, I have no idea what FL stands for, but this category contains the faster, more grown up, more aggressive and generally much more beastly cars than the Gte category that we drove last time out, which is fitting because this is a bigger, faster, more grown up and more beastly car than the Gte that we drove last time, and as such requires a considerably different driving technique than we had last time. It's all about keeping the momentum up, it's all about keeping the speed up. The car was very willing to go sideways, but in a controllable and steady fashion. This one, much bigger, much heavier. You've got to be much more careful not to carry too much speed into the corners, otherwise the biggest Achilles heel of the Puma GTB comes to the fore, and that is understeer. Not a little bit of understeer, a lot of understeer, and that is really difficult to get your head round, having just driven the GTB last time out. And the car categorically does not want to go where you want it to go, and you need to think about that a little when you're driving it out on the track, especially in braking zones such as this, where you see now, look how much lock I've got on, and still she's pushing wide. You get out onto the marbles at the exit of the corner in that kind of scenario, and you're just basically going straight off the racetrack. Because it's a bigger car, and it's a heavier car at that, it's also very easy to get it into a massive uncontrollable slide. So unlike the GTE, where you can really back it into the corner, get it on opposite lock, get your foot down and drift nice and very artistically and fashionably out of the corner, in this thing it's a much more physical experience. You really got to hustle the car, you really got to hang on to it and use just not neat, not attractive, but just brute force to get the car into the corner where you want it to do, and hustle it on the way out and try and lose as little time as you possibly can, just manhandling it basically like you would expect. There's no power steering, I've got big heavy force feedback, it's soaking up some of the bumps a little bit better than the GTE did. Arguably it's probably a little bit softer sprung than the GTE because it's a bigger and heavier car after all, so it's taking some of those bumps a little bit better than the little GTE did, but it's then biting you back considerably in the corners in comparison to the smaller Puma car that we drove last time out, and that gives us a much different driving experience. And I suppose it's down to your personal preferences if you like this kind of thing, or you prefer the more pointed, smoother, classically sideways approach of the GTE. I like both, depending on what mood I'm in basically, as long as you just get over that initial huge understeer that comes with this car. That's the thing that'll really catch you out when you first start driving it, is just getting used to that thing that you go 3, 4, 5 miles an hour over your maximum apex speed, or you run 1 or 2, 3, 4 whatever feet wide of the ideal turning point, and short of bringing the car to an absolute stop, which with brakes like this isn't the easiest job in the whole wide world, you're gonna head straight off the circuit on the outside. I mean, you saw there, I really brought the speed of the car down, turned in at a reasonably decent time into the corner, but still the understeer is trying so hard to punish me. And then you see into that corner, which is difficult because you're braking while turning on the first part of the turn. The back end, the weight of the car is wanting to swing the rear end out, while at the same time the front end's wanting to push it straight. So you've got a couple of very different problems to deal with, which is why I'm saying you really need to manhandle the car into the corners, and I actually love that. That's an excellent representation of what it looks to me that the driving's like in these kind of cars. I mean, anybody who's looked at the styling of this Puma Gt B will be under no illusions as to where they've very heavily borrowed their design cues from. It looks very much like a Dodge Charger. And I've seen Chargers race lots and lots and lots in different historic touring car championships. Never a Puma Gt B, of course, because I'm not Brazilian, but I've seen them race lots and lots, and this car is behaving exactly as it looks like those drivers are having to deal with when racing real world versions, and that is the whole brute force and strength over style, which I think is fabulous. And because, as I mentioned when we took the last car out, the force feedbacks and physics feel so good in AMS, the way it replicates that really is pretty good. Well, not pretty good, underplaying it, to be honest. It's really very good indeed, and it's such an engaging drive. I'm loving this. I'm absolutely loving it. I took it out for a spin at a failed attempt at recording this on Sunday night, and I only did a couple of laps, and the understeer just bugged me. I wasn't in the mood for whatever reason, so I packed the video in and thought, well, that's pretty rubbish, I don't like that. And now I'm more in the mood for it, helped by a Jack Daniels and Coke earlier in the day. I'm absolutely loving this. I've already set the race to 8 minutes, and I've got 1 minute left, and I'm pretty gutted, to be honest. This deserves a talk and drive all of its own, but I've elected to do the threesome, the magical 3 cars in one video, so I'll have to stick to the 8 minutes to be fair to the other 2. And then you saw there, look, I broke a little bit late. I had to come off the brakes to try and get the front end turning and get back on them again, but it left me just a little bit too wide. And there's no coming back from that. There's no amount of manipulating the brake and throttle to get the rear end round that's going to do much about that. If you make that initial error into the entry of the corner, game over for you, my friends. If that's the case, you're just going to have to deal with it and compromise and minimise the compromising that you're having to do as much as humanly possible. And that is something all too rare, I found, in my sim racing, and something that, when the mood strikes me, as it does today, is something I absolutely love. Now you'll see, on this track, it looks like third gear's quite long, so rather than mashing up and down the box as much as I would have been doing in the GTE, I can let that third gear do its business a lot longer than I could in the GTE. I had to shift up to fourth by that corner, then back down to third, which is another benefit of a car like this. You want to be doing as little as you possibly can to unsettle the car, so having to change down, unsettle the rear because of it, risk locking your rear tyres as well if you don't get the shift right. To be able to avoid doing that is ideal. Now, whether I'll be able to maintain, yes, we can still maintain it before we need to brake into the final turn. We got a little bit lucky then, we broke a little bit late, but the rear snapped round, which we managed to control quick enough to do enough to get the front end turned in rather than suffering from that nasty understeer that we spoke about so very much in this video so far. And this track, in its default setup state, the car's default setup state should I say, and with my current experience levels and thus lap time capability, third gear can be used almost exclusively around the track. Just starting to top out there, but not enough to make it worth dropping it into up to fourth. In fact, I actually need to drop it down a second now because we got out of shape mid-corner, and that's compromised us too much on the exit. Now this is a lovely corner in this car because you have to brake as you turn in there, and that really wants to unsettle the rear, which puts you just wide enough to be able to then come back and hit a late apex, get a reasonably okay run onto this fast section before the now rechristened pant-wettingly exciting final turn, which really is. I mean, come on folks, look at that. That last corner must be mega fun. Well, hey, imagine doing that in real life. That must be mega fun in a real car. Scary as it comes, but mega fun nonetheless. This is definitely, these kind of cars in the real world, the sort of circuit that will separate the good from the really very good, because there's no runoff. I mean, you look at some of these corners, that first turn that we've just gone round there, instead of barriers or gravel traps or large runoff areas that you'd expect in any kind of modern European facility, you've got some nice banking to launch yourself up on. You do not, I can imagine, have a small accident at a track like this. And in a car like this one, you really are on the verge of an accident at any given time. It's a beauty. This is actually, I said at the beginning of this video, the Puma Gte was my favourite. Having not driven the road car yet, and having only driven this one very, very briefly, I think it is mood dependent, and I think it is also dependent on what your preference is for the kind of car you like to drive. But certainly basing it on the evidence of my time behind the wheel tonight, I'm going to give it to this. This is my car of choice so far. I really thoroughly enjoyed that. That is absolutely something very different to what I've experienced in sim racing for quite a while. I've got, again, I mentioned it again, the Sim Steering 2 from Leo Bodner DD wheel. I've calmed it down on settings a little bit now because the first video I did using the wheel basically was more exercise than I've done in the last 20 years combined. So I've calmed it down to a manageable level, but I'm lathered. I've got a bit of a sweat on after that. It's a real workout, but in a good way. Workout as in trying to keep the car on the straight and narrow. Brilliant. Absolutely fab. So that was the Puma Gt B. So we've done the GTE, the slower of the two historics that come as part of this Puma pack. We've done the GTB just now, which is the big Dodge Charger looking type car. We've already driven the P052, I think it is, the modern open top racing car. Now it's time to see what we think of the road car, the latest road car that came out in late 2018 or early 2019, I can't remember which. The return of the Puma brand on the road. Let's give it a go. And now for our third and final car from the Puma 4-car pack. We've already done the P052, I think it was. We've driven the Puma GTE and Puma Gt B. Historic cars, and it's time for this one. A road-going car, a new sports car from the Puma brand. This is, and I'm going to back out again to get its pronunciation correct, La Lumimare. So, it's a sports car, it's very European in its styling, it's a road car at heart, so this is not a racing car, which is something a bit different for Automobilista. Let's take it on the track and see how it drives. Okay, back on track again for the third and final time in this Puma Lumimare concept sports car. Now I will have to admit this is literally the very first time I've taken this car out. Never driven never driven anything in it. First time I've loaded it up in sim. So bear with us a little bit. It's quite nice inside, much more modern interior. We've got a little LCD display thing that will no doubt show us the latest in satellite navigation technology should we be driving this thing in the real world. Now, one thing to mention about the Lumimare concept sports car, first and foremost, it's got something all too rare for a modern road car. It's got a manual H-speed, H-pattern even, 6-speed gearbox, so none of that stupid flappy paddle goodness is being had in this car. They're keeping it very old school, which I absolutely think is brilliant. If I had silly money to spend on a brand spanking new performance sports car, I wouldn't want to be dealing with flappy paddles. I'd want the good old mechanical shifting through the gearbox in a H-pattern stick. Although I must admit, I'm cheating slightly here today. I'm driving with sequential shifter, because anybody who watches any of our previous recent videos or saw the Man Cave Tour video from the other day will know I've recently treated myself to a Huskenwald sequential shifter. Quite frankly, I think it's the best thing since sliced bread. I absolutely love it, so I'm using it for every opportunity I possibly can, which is why I've not gone with the H-pattern shifter that I've got available to use today, because I just don't want to miss out on my Huskenwald. But that's by the by, that's not relevant to what we're talking about, so we'll leave that to another video one day in the future. But it is really cool, while we're on that topic, it is really cool to see a modern car like this taking advantage of a H-pattern box rather than going down the route that many sports car manufacturers seem to be going down, of having the fly-by-wire throttle and the flappy paddle gears that are controlled more by electrics than they are by mechanics and cogs. So it feels like this might be a little bit more of a engineering piece rather than a technological showcase of all the modern trickery and wizardry and gadgets that are available. But I am basing that based on virtual representation in a racing sim and about 3 lines of text provided by Riser on the car selection screen. I don't know anything about the real world Puma road car manufacturers, to be honest, nor do I know anything about this here Lumimare concept road car. But I do know the version in sim is very nice indeed, thank you very much. Feels much lighter than the historic cars that we've driven up to this point, as you would expect, because they're 70s technology, this is 2019 technology wrapped up in this thing. So the car is much lighter, it's much more stable as well. I know that's ironic, me saying that as I'm sideways into the turn, but the car, it's a lot better on the brakes, it's a lot smoother on the wheel, the car feels a lot more planted than the two, the Gt B and the GTE that we drove before. But at the same time, it still retains a bit of the fun, still wants to go a little bit sideways if you get overly excited with your throttle or steering applications, or you're a little bit late on the brakes. Just a nice little car, very nice little car actually. I don't go to Automobilista for my road car driving kicks very often at all, to be honest. But this is doing a nice job of keeping me happy. It's not my bag, to be honest. I don't like road cars, as I've said more than once. And by the looks of it, the AI is not really up to the job, as it is throughout the rest of the sim. I've got into the lead, although I'm doing my best to go straight to the barriers. Boom! There we go, don't matter, I've lost interest, to be honest. Got into the lead pretty easily, and I'm streaking away from the other cars, so AI could probably do with a bit of work in this car. And to be honest, it's like I say, it's not my... After having just had an absolute ball of a time in the GTB and GTE, this feels a little bit mundane, to be honest with you, by comparison. It's a very smooth ride, it's very straightforward. As you would expect, it's a modern car on modern suspension, got modern technology involved, modern tyres. It all just feels a little bit honest with you. By comparison, I dare say if I drove this one straight out of the box, I'd be waxing lyrical about how much fun it is to drive. But having just had a real good time in the Gt B, I think it was the last car we drove, the Dodge Charger looking thing, a really physical and beastly car that was. This one just feels all a little bit straightforward. It does want to get backwards though. It does feel like the brake bias is a little bit rearward in this car, and the rear end is definitely happy if you ask it to step out and try and overtake the front. But then if you dial it down a little bit in your driving, you need to stop running wide there though, because that's not going to lead to a good time. If you dial it down a little bit in your driving, you're a little bit more precise in your inputs, the car will be very, very stable indeed. And we'll look at this little kink before. I was saying we'll look at this little kink before how smooth it's going to be, but actually it's just put me off, because I was just going to show off there and say, look, you can go flat through there and then get on the anchors, but you can't. So don't try doing things that you've not done before for the first time and claim it as fact. There you go. It's a lesson for you people. Can you tell that I've never driven this car before? I think you can, can't you? But the problem I've got is, as I say, having had such a good time driving the other two, they've been really, really my kind of car, in my kind of sim. I'm just not interested in this. And that makes it hard to keep your concentration up, because I'm just sort of going through the motions till the last couple of minutes of the session are over, trying to tell you as much as I can about it, and then wrapping this video, because I'm just not interested in this kind of car. But as far as road cars go, it feels good. The force feedback, all the usual stuff that you expect from a Riser game. Force feedback's excellent, the car's excellent, the way it handles is wonderful. It's all really good stuff. It's just not my content, that's all. It's just not for me, this sort of thing, at all. But as far as road cars go, it's very, very nice, and I dare say when you've got more experience behind the wheel, you can have a real good time slipping and sliding around. The AI needs work though, because they feel like they're on a go slow. Don't know what that is. I don't know whether that's something that hopefully will be addressed in a future update, or whether you just have to ramp it up another 10-20% against the rest of the content to get a good race. But you'll see, I'll follow this guy now. I can just go around your outside so easily, it's unbelievable. I'm completely off the throttle to try and keep out his back end. Yeah, it's just easy. I mean, I'm going to breeze past him now on the straight. I've not changed the settings from the last race that we did. I think we finished 12th, 13th in the Gt B it was. So yeah, maybe more work to do on the artificial intelligence with this car, but probably been a little bit dramatic by saying this, and maybe I'm again passing things off as fact that aren't necessarily true, but I can't imagine many of the usual Automobilista racing crowd will be spending a great deal of time in a road car. I think it's fair to say that us hardcore few that play AMS are very much all for the racing car side of the sim, so probably got a little bit less urgency about putting the AI up to the level of the rest of the sim, because it's not going to be one that you spend, I would imagine, you spend a whole load of time in. But then again, I'm talking my personal preference. You guys out there might be all for road cars, and all power to you if you are. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Each their own, sim racing's whatever you want it to be for you. But I know for me, certainly, this is not my kind of content at all, really, but I do like it. It's a very nice car, very enjoyable, still stands out as a real quality piece of work by Riser, which you'd expect now. Everything they do pretty much seems to be fantastic, so it doesn't shock me in any way, shape or form that this Puma Pack DLC is fabulous. And now the check has been called and we're on our way back to the pits. Let's just summarise the DLC, the Puma Pack, new manufacturer, brand new brand to Automobilista. 4 cars, as we've already said, 3 of which are race cars. One of this is the car that we're driving now, the Lumamare. keep wanting to say Luminare. Illuminati, even worse. But the Luminare concept sports road car, really nice. I mean, look at that, you can get some nice back end action on. Let's chuck the handbrake on there as well and have a real good time. All the cars are absolutely fabulous, as you would expect. Very welcome content choices as well, especially in the touring car classics category. More variety in that one is always a good thing. The PO52, I think they call it, I need to check that one day. That's welcome as well because that's its own standalone series and it adds something very nice to the simulation as well, having that kind of car in sim. The quality across all three cars is fantastic, all four cars, sorry, is fantastic as you would expect. It's met and surpassed my expectations, which is no shock to me because Riser pretty much always surpass my expectations. The quality of the product that they produce is just that good. If you've not tried AMS yet, or you've not tried the Puma cars yet, I implore you people, get yourself over and have a go in them. They're fabulous content for a fabulous sim and for a really great development team. They're often present at RaceDepartment and at their own social media channels. They're very engaging guys to talk to. They've always seem to have time for the customer and listen to what you've got to say, and they do the fine detail so much better than anybody else. AMS now, Automobilista, it might be an older title in terms of when it first came out as Game Stock Car Extreme, but the level of detail that they've gone to in the sim, in all the things that matter, the things like limited tyre sets throughout the race weekend, the aircraft that fly over on the correct flight path, for the love of God, how good is that? It's brilliant, and the content they've got is something that you just don't find anywhere else. So big love to Automobilista. The Puma Pack is brill, really welcome addition to the sim. So I love it, absolutely love it. If I had to pick my favourite car out of the four, it would depend on what mood I'm in. Like today, I felt fired up for something like the big GTB, GTB, and that was exquisite. Sometimes you'd be in a mood for something more modern, and that's when the P052 comes into play. Sometimes you might want a classic car that's a bit more manageable. The GTE is your friend. It's got something for everyone, for every mood. Really love it. It's a shame AMS has come to end of its development life cycle because there is still loads of mileage left in it. I would love to see more studio content coming. We know that they've let slip the McLaren license has been secured, so there may be a bit more content coming to AMS in future. Fingers crossed for that. Really looking forward to seeing what that produces. And yeah, there we go. It's been a damn good time. Really enjoyed it. I hope you've enjoyed the video. As always, can't say it enough, thank you for giving up your time to watch me ramble on and drive awfully and tell you nothing of any worth about any of the stuff I'm doing. But thank you for your time. I'd appreciate a subscribe or follow on our Twitch channel where you are watching this now first. We'll also be putting this up on YouTube, so you may be watching that after the event. If so, thank you. Please give us a subscribe on YouTube as well, that'd be great. And you can also catch us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and at RaceDepartment.com. We do a whole wealth of different sim racing and real-world motorsport stuff. Come and join us. Our hobby is wicked. I love it. Sim racing's awesome, guys. So are you. As always, I've been Paul. This has been RaceDepartment. Thank you for tuning in. Till next time.